Paul, McGuire, Grimes, KSTP, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Rose and Rory, it is really great talking to both of you today. Before we talk about physical, Rose, I have to tell you that my husband and I watched Mrs. America and loved it. One of the best things we watched in 2020. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for watching.
Oh my God, yeah, it was brilliant. We had told everyone about it. Now, your character Sheila in this has some negative self-talk and this inner monologue of hers. What were those conversations like to make sure that it wasn't going too far? And were you ever taken aback by what she thinks?
Constant. I mean, it's deeply uncomfortable. It is not an easy place that we're exploring. It's the human condition. It's the conversation, unfortunately, so many of us have had. Or I know when people see it, they relate, men, women. And obviously, Sheila is an extreme example. We meet her at a breaking point. She's suffering a horrible, secretive, shameful illness and addiction. And she's in a dysfunctional marriage. And interestingly, it's quite chronologically a companion piece to Mrs. America because we started in 1981 and that finished in 1980. You know, the ERA was not ratified. Ronald Reagan was elected president. And Sheila and Danny really are still in the 70s. You know, they're activists. They're young people from the movement who've now kind of are beginning to feel a little bit sidelined and a little bit washed up. And it becomes increasingly evident as the chapters of the show unfold. And it was so arresting, the pilot, when I read it, sort of realizing that coming from Mrs. America. Obviously, this is very different. It's a fictional character. It's a domestic story. It's a far more intimate story and a deeply personal one for Annie. So I really leaned on her for so much of that in terms of the inner dialogue but not wanting to pull punches. But it is uncomfortable, and it's not something you see depicted.
Yeah, no, I think it's such an
also
original
deeply funny
idea.
too. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's
No,
another
no,
part of it. You know, it's actually quite funny, and that catches you unawares.
no, for sure. No, yeah, no, it's funny. It's very original. I really love that about it. Now, Rory, how would you your character's running for state assembly? How would you describe his platform? And do you think that how far do you think he would go in today's political landscape?
You know, it's kind of interesting that all the stuff he's fighting for and talking about would still be relevant in today's political landscape, which is I guess kind of an unfortunate, sad thing to realize. At least that's what I realized when I was reading this. I don't know how far he'd go. I think there's Danny sort of lives in two worlds where he is actually a passionate politician who wants to be a state assemblyman, and also someone who I do believe really loves his wife and loves his daughter and loves his family. But I think he also deals with the fact that he also maybe loves himself a little too much, and that kind of blinds him to Sheila's issues, which start to become very apparent, despite the fact that she's hiding them. You find a husband who's not looking to try to find the things that she's hiding.
Now, Rose, did you have to do any sort of jazzercise boot camps at all? And how to learn the style? And did it come easy to you?
No, I mean, I am not. I'm essentially quite lazy, so I'm not an exercise person, and I am quite uncoordinated, and I don't have a dance background, so I was really nervous. I was like, how am I not gonna just completely screw this up? We had an incredible choreographer, Jennifer Hamilton, and I started doing these Zoom classes with her maybe 2 months in advance. I was in Byron Bay in Australia, and she was in California. And she's kind of she is my coach. Like, she got me through. She's had a great sense of humor. She knew what was looking good. She knew what to lean into. She had the style of the period, very specific. And we only met on set because of COVID, and I honestly nearly burst into tears. I was just like, "Oh, that's my coach. That's my coach. That's my Sheila." Or not my Sheila, but she's not Sheila. But it was that feeling, and I just owe so much of that, all of it, to Jennifer. So we became very close by the end. It was like a very bonding experience.
I completely got that. I got the rap signal. It's been great talking to both of you. Rose, we need to get Spy 2. I'm serious. I love Spy. What can we do? I've talked to Melissa McCarthy about this too.
You tell me. I'm ready to go. Oh,
okay.
Me too, guys. I'll look into it. We'll all do it together.
Oh, it's ready.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good evening. McGuire, Grimes, KSTP, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Annie, it is really great talking today. I think that physical is such an original idea and concept, and there's not a lot of shows out there like that, so kudos to you.
Thank you so much for saying that. I like seeing Rose behind you. I can
Yeah,
see
she's
you
just
popped her
so
out. That's cool.
yeah, she's so great. Now I'm curious. She's an executive producer on the show. What was that collaboration like in bringing she to life versus what you had on paper, and then what she did
Yeah.
on top of that?
Sure. Well, dream come true to get Rose Byrne involved in this project. It was something I wrote on spec. It was something I didn't ever expect to get to make. It's certainly not on this level. But when she read the script and was interested in it, it was just a thrill. And we collaborated from the beginning. This character in many ways, it's two characters. There's the person she projects the world, and then there's this very different person that she kind of suppresses and keeps inside with her inner voice. And so we really got to build those layers together. Rose brought so many of her ideas and, embroidered this inner voice with a lot of her own inner bully and a lot of her own experiences. So it was a true, true collaboration. And she just never pulls any punches. She goes for it. There's nothing, she was afraid to do. There were things I was afraid of, but there was nothing she was afraid of doing.
I love hearing that. Now, the inner voices was something I was going to ask about too. How important was trying to find that tone, and versus like taking it too far, too negative, so that we were still redeeming Sheila and understanding what she
Yeah.
was thinking?
Well, I just always kind of gut check my own experience, like if it's true to me, if it's true to the kinds of things I say and feel, then it felt right. And we really, and the same thing with Rose. It always felt like if it's true, if it comes from my experience, then, it has integrity. And just always also keeping an eye on the fact that, we're rooting for her to start to channel that tough inner bully out into the world. So it's about not pulling punches about the way she treats herself, but kind of rooting for her to start channeling it in the right direction. And so the tougher she is on herself, the more you're just saying, hey, pull out of it, like redirect that to where it belongs. And, that was my own experience of just feeling like my own recovery from a really tough period in my life came when I was able to really tap into the power that I was, using to beat myself up with and start to kind of use it in the world instead.
I've had many of those conversations throughout my own kind of weight loss journey, and the negative self-talk and how we're always our own worst critic and have the harshest voice sometimes in ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I think writers sometimes write about themselves, and you just kind of talked about tapping into your own history. Were you ever too afraid to do that and be like, that's a little too much of me to put on paper or on screen?
Oh, I was afraid of that for decades. And the hardest part was just starting to do it. I think the illness is really good at telling you that if you share it, you're going to get rejected by people. And the opposite is true, that when you share things you're ashamed of, lo and behold, other human beings feel the same way and you actually feel less alone. And, these things really do thrive in secrecy. And when you share them, it really sheds light. And so it took many, many years for me to have the courage to get it on paper. And I'm really glad I did.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Annie, I got the rap signal. It was great talking to you, and I hope people enjoy Physical, and Rose and Rory, and your cast is so delightful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care, Annie.
You too.